heard about this one?
It's game.
Yes.
And it's on Steam.
Yes, it is.
Both of those are correct.
Right. It is a third-person, side-scrolling action title. And it is another one of those that...
Screaming with this guy.
Yes, absolutely. It has yet to be confirmed to me officially that this is technically a horror game, but it is absolutely a suspense title. You are essentially an area that no longer works. It's a base on a planet, and you have to fix it.
So another engineer in space. So stomping bodies?
Yeah, not yet, oddly enough. But note, one of the things about this game that really is just visually fascinating is that it's got the same sort of old school side-scrolling layers that a lot of titles have, but it's rendered in 3D, so it's just gorgeous.
Also allowing you to use analog as a jump. Very interesting.
Yeah, there is a reason for that later.
But yeah, no, I see like this, almost like Little Big Planet.
Yes, very much like Little Big Planet. And it looks just a little bit like it's either claymation or like there's a puppeteering element to the visual. Yeah. He's obviously a bunch of different parts that are connected together, which obviously, I mean, every character in a game like this is built that way from a mesh perspective, but in this game you really see it. And there's just something visually about this that looks so different. Like, almost nothing looks like this.
It kind of reminds me, prettier version, but the visuals of Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo, how they rendered that game. It wasn't cartoony. They had, textured rocks. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know what you're saying.
A prettier version, but just how the environment is.
I think essentially Little Big Planet meets Dead Space visuals, like in a weird way. But so it's okay. So what you've got, the reason the game is called the Swapper, is because you get a weapon that allows you to create copies of yourself. Okay, so that's you now. Now move.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. Now run him into a wall and just keep walking towards him. And if you touch him, he disappears. He goes back in. You can make 5 copies of yourself.
That's all sorts of uncomfortable.
Right. Exactly.
That's dark. I don't know. There's something just wrong about that. An instant clone gun.
They deal with it. An instant clone gun, and just a little bit later in the title, first of all, your clone can just die immediately. A little bit later in the title, you create a clone, and then your secondary fire allows you to transfer to that, and that becomes you. So the body that was you is no longer you, and is now something you can sacrifice, and often have to in order to solve the puzzles. So, you can essentially drop a clone anywhere, and it will do whatever you do. Now, you've passed into a different area, and then that clone ceases to exist. That happens every time. There are also lights that you can walk into, and those lights reset things. Okay, so now you're back to 4. Do you want me to give you a hint?
Yes.
You need to go back into the other room.
That's what I was thinking. This game is incredibly beautiful.
It's amazing because the animation on him looks a little bit wacky, but everything else in the game is perfect.
But like right there, just that.
Yeah.
Just how the flashlight.
Just astounding lighting effects. I mean, this is very rarely is it that a side-scrolling title is the best looking thing like out there. stylistically, but the combination of the style and the visuals on this is incredible. You can pause while you jump. Now note that flashing platform up there to your top right. Just put a clone underneath the light up there. Hi, Vixen. Hello. Is it time? Hello. Hello, friend. I'm a cat. I love you. Yeah.
Just so people know, I'm horribly allergic to cats.
Right.
Luckily, I'm on drugs. So this should be okay for Huneycutt.
This also is one of those things where she just is the way that she is. Hello, Internet.
She is claiming me. So.
She's decided to be your friend, and nothing you can do will get you out of it. Try to put a clone in the halo of that spotlight.
So I was trying to.
Right.
Oh, there we go.
I actually thought that this was easier played with mouse and keyboard.
There are some games that I prefer using. Like, actually, Hotline Miami, I prefer playing with keyboard.
Yeah. There are some things that are just easier to aim with. Okay, so now, this is the part where you start dealing with the fact that you have to move your clone, and your clone moves when you do, so you have to use the physical environment around you to make sure that it's where it needs to be. So that's one thing that you could do. Now put another clone up on top of the rock.
Grab them all.
Oh, you did them all?
Yeah.
So put one up top, pressing against that stone. Now walk forward. Now jump. Puzzle craziness. Ah, damn. Yeah, it doesn't really pull any punches. And now all 4 of your clones just cease to exist because you walk through a checkpoint.
This is dark.
There is a real note of that. And what's interesting to me is that thus far in my experience in the game, it doesn't do anything to beat you over the head, like about how dark a game it is.
Yeah, it doesn't have to say, oh, that's so dark. It's scary. It's. I feel a little uncomfortable playing this. I mean, I shouldn't, because it's not like playing Dead Space where I'm a bit closer. I mean, games like this can be terrifying, but
it doesn't feel like it's a horror game, but it definitely, you don't feel like you're doing good things when you make those clones. All right, so now you just shoot a clone anywhere, preferably in a place where when he falls he can't die and you can target him. Yeah, you got to be able to hit him. But so now hit right, yeah, and see now the you that was you is no longer you. Now you're new you. That's so yeah, and you leave old you behind on a regular basis.
I mean, I'm no longer me. I'm 2 versions of me now.
Yes, you were 3 versions down from what you used to be. Now there are also certain, note that clones can't be created with a blue light. There is a very simple sort of color analogy. When you create a clone, it's a red halo. So you're going to have to aim right, but now you have to walk forward so that the blue light, yeah, it's little puzzly based mechanics like that. Sometimes it's just aiming in the right place. And then later that would have sort of worked, but didn't because you weren't positioned right, etc., etc. So you've got to figure out, you can't swap to him because you can't swap through the red light. Yeah, so lots of little logic-based puzzles. It's got just absolutely one of the best art styles out there. It's just a stunning game. And I think one of the reasons that it is absolutely, and this is my favorite of the games that we were talking about our favorite indie titles, and like obviously certain games like FTL, yeah, absolutely, Limbo,
Braid.
absolutely Braid. There are a lot of incredibly good indie titles that get a lot of word of mouth, and obviously all those games are just flat out phenomenal. But this is my absolute favorite indie title of the last year or so, because it's really uncomfortable. It reminds me a little bit of Limbo in that there's something wrong about it. And I mean, obviously, there's something very specifically wrong in that. That you need, you know what to do yet? You want to guess? No, you gotta leave that thing over there. That's on. I love puzzle games. Now remember how many clones you can make. Now remember you can't switch bodies.
In red.
Yeah, but you don't. Now you need to create a clone way over there and switch bodies to it. And now he can create a clone and switch to that. I don't think you have any left. Which is. I really like how the gun just falls. Like, the gun is the only thing that's persistent. It makes a copy, the bodies fade, but the gun is still there. Like, the beautiful, beautiful little artistic choices. No, you need to put a dude up there. And that guy's still got to be on the button.
I'm really good.
It always takes a minute. And the logic in games like this is always just a little bit alien. But the vast majority of the game is this sort of brain-teasing kind of puzzle. And just in an absolutely fascinating environment that really, while you can feel some of the influences from other areas, really feels very unique, in particular in this side-scrolling kind of way. There's just something about it that really doesn't feel like much of anything else I've played recently. Ta-da! Yay! So now you can teleport from one place to another. And largely, your job is to reactivate equipment and figure out what happened. Something really uncomfortable about that. So now you're in another broken space.
Must be the abyss.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it takes some very heavy inspiration from a couple of different things James Cameron was involved in. I think it has a really serious feel of like the Ridley Scott Alien. That some, yeah, so just and
it doesn't have to do much. All it had to say was hello.
Right. I love that jump scares aren't a default option for some developers. I'm much more uncomfortable with that than I would have been if something like roared and slithered away into the background.
I mean, for me, still one of the most terrifying moments of the game is playing Bioshock 1 and entering the room with the guy's sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Why is that red? And why is it dark? And what's going on? And why? What are we researching? And I just like that it builds tension for you.
Well, it doesn't even have you question why is it okay to swap.
Yes.
Not because it now has me thinking, well, the guy I first started as, is that a clone? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it kind of makes the idea of dying pointless.
Yeah, I know.
There's no reason to fear death.
Right. Because there's nothing really that bad that can happen. I don't want to move too much further into this because I think this is another one of those that can get a little spoilery pretty quickly. So I think
Do you have anything else?
I don't really think so. I mean, I think Two a Pop is really good. I think obviously there's some really great indie titles out there. I think we've seen 4 really good examples tonight. And I think, just in closing, I want to say I am really excited about what indie development has done for gaming. Minecraft and FTL, obvious options like that. Some of the best-selling games of all time, some of the greatest experiences in recent history, and without the huge corporate umbrella that a lot of other developers have been forced into. I think we all are familiar with the sort of Tim Schafer business that sometimes that got ugly because of the corners he had to cut to make a developer happy. A franchise died because a publisher decided it was going to.
Yeah, I mean, but there's also on the darker side more recently with the game Towns, that indie developed game that is now no longer a thing, which I actually bought.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of these well, great, now I don't even want to touch it.
There are good things about it and there are bad things about it. I think both indie games and crowdsourcing are two things that are really a really integrally related issue. You have titles that are crowdsourced that make their funding and then are great, and then you have titles that are crowdsourced that don't make their funding and ever get released. And then you get early access titles like this. Towns is a good example. There's another one that just folded. Something 2066. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, that wasn't actually a game. That was a lie, essentially.
Yeah. There are times where we can get really burned on it, but I think the really good experiences that come out of it make it worth dealing with that. I'm really excited to see what they do with Wasteland. I'm really excited to see where Torment.
The Obsidian game?
Yes, but no, that's something of Numenera. Torment, I forget the exact title, but where Torment is going, where the Obsidian indie developed title is going, I think Star Citizen is an incredible concept. It's just I love that these genres like 3/4 top-down isometric RPGs or space flight simulators can just literally come back from the dead because people want to play it. But yeah, for every one of those we get something like Towns where it's just all right, we're out.
I mean, you have to be careful too. I mean, there are projects you can see that don't quite make their budget, and it does suck. But some do find a new life on Greenlit or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's now easier for people to make games with the Unreal 4 engine deal, where instead of paying the $2,000 fee, it's $20 or $15 a month.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Essentially.
I mean, Jesus, we could afford that.
Yeah. I mean, you could do that on your own, make money, and eventually have the money you make to pay off your game so you can fund more projects.
Yeah, and I don't think there's ever been a more exciting time to be a developer, and I think that is the best news ever for people that like to play games.
I think even big studios are taking, with Tim Schafer and even Ken Levine, him taking a step back from Respawn and making a smaller team.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a little big indie.
Yeah, I think a lot of people looked at that as a really tragic moment, but a lot of things work better when they're smaller and more flexible, and I really think that we'll see incredible things out of that team. I think because of the nature of the way the gaming economy has shifted and the nature of the way that games are published, because that's changed so pivotally, I think we get a lot more really genuinely interesting titles, and I'm just really excited. I think it's a great time to be a fan of the industry. I think for that specific reason. But yeah, cool. So closing thoughts. Thanks for watching. This is Pixelated Geeks, James Huneycutt, and
Crass.
and you have been watching PXL Plays. Definitely subscribe to the channel here and to our YouTube channel where we'll throw the replay up, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks so much.